Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going on a pretty fascinating journey that spans all the way from ancient mist-covered mountain forests straight to modern movie sets. We're going to trace exactly how indigenous oral folklore, stories deeply, literally rooted in the natural landscape, has seamlessly evolved into this breathtaking culture of modern filmmaking. It's honestly an incredible story of survival, art, and just profound community connection.
So, I love starting with a bit of a mystery. Ask yourself, what does a tiny, wild mountain berry actually have to do with modern cinema? How could a fleeting, tart little fruit connect to independent filmmaking in remote Nepal? I mean, it sounds like a total stretch, right? What could a berry forged in the high altitudes of the Himalayas possibly teach us about how modern film crews operate? Well, the answer is actually hidden in the very DNA of Himalayan storytelling, a tradition where nature and human narrative are completely inseparable. Section 1. The Legend of Kaafal.
To solve this mystery, we've got to zoom way in, down to a single deep red fruit that locals absolutely adore. It's called the Kaafal berry. Now, what's really interesting about this berry is that it spoils incredibly fast. It essentially has to be eaten right where it grows. You are definitely not going to find this sitting on a supermarket shelf halfway across the world. It thrives in the temperate climate of the Himalayan foothills, and it only peaks for this super brief window between April and June. Because it's so tightly tethered to that specific time and place, the Kaafal has become this powerful symbol of fleeting seasons, and it sits right at the very heart of local Kumoni folklore. Which brings us to a pretty haunting but beautiful local myth. As the story goes, there was a mother and her young daughter who were really struggling to make ends meet. One morning, the mother gathered a full basket of freshly ripened Kaafal berries and told her daughter to guard them while she went off to collect fodder. But as the intense afternoon sun beat down, those juicy berries shriveled up in the heat, making the basket look half empty. When the mother finally returned, she thought her daughter had eaten them. In a sudden flash of blind anger, she struck her fragile daughter, tragically killing her. Well, when the cool night air finally rolled in, the berries plumped right back up. Realizing her terrible mistake, the mother died of sheer grief. And this story just brilliantly illustrates the depth of the culture up there. According to the legend, that mother and daughter were actually transformed into birds. So now, every single spring, right when the Kaafal ripens, locals hear this mournful bird call echoing through the forest. It sounds like Kaafal Paako, Ni Chaakho, which basically translates to, "The Kaafal ripened, but I did not taste them." And then the mother bird replies, "Pure putai, pure pur," meaning the basket is full. It is this constant, environmental reminder of love, regret, the destructive nature of anger, and of course, the undeniable power of storytelling.
All right, moving on to Section 2. Wisdom of Himalayan Folklore.
Let's look at how this storytelling tradition builds across the rest of the Himalayas. You know, the Kaafal isn't the only part of nature carrying that kind of emotional weight. Just like the Kaafal bird, there's the guguti bird, the Eurasian blackbird. Its melancholic song carries the memory of a married sister who lived far away from home. She was eagerly waiting for her brother to visit for the Bhai Dooj festival, and she cooked up this massive pahadi meal. But she was so exhausted she fell asleep. Her brother arrived, saw her sleeping, and not wanting to wake her, he just left his gifts and headed back to beat the nightfall. When she finally woke up and realized she missed him, she literally died of a broken heart, reincarnating as the guguti bird. Once again, we see exactly how deeply locals tie complex human emotions and family bonds directly to their surrounding natural environment.
Now, the really crucial point here is that these aren't just, made-up bedtime stories. They reflect very real traditions and societal structures. Take the festival of Batoli, for instance. It's celebrated in the pleasant spring month of Chaitra, and it's a time when families travel to visit their married daughters, bringing gifts to honor their bond. And this very real, tangible cultural practice actually sets a stage for one of the most entertaining and triumphant folktales of the entire region.
Which brings us to the brilliant story of Rami. Rami was a widow traveling through a dangerous forest to deliver those Batali gifts to her daughter. Suddenly, she's confronted by a hungry bear, but she uses her wit and tricks him into letting her pass, promising she'll be plumper and tastier on her way back. When it's time to head home, Rami's daughter hollows out a large bottle gourd, called a tamati, and actually hides her mother inside it, along with a handful of red chili powder. So the gourd magically rolls its way through the forest. When the confused bear stops the rolling gourd and asks if it's seen an old woman, a voice from inside shouts, "Let this bottle gourd roll its way. How would I know of any old lady?" Eventually, when other animals manage to break the gourd open, Rami just throws the chili powder right in their eyes and escapes. It's such a great story, explicitly designed to teach children quick thinking, resilience, and wit.
Let's jump into Section 3, Filmmakers as Community Guests.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. We're shifting from those ancient oral traditions right into modern visual storytelling, and we're going to see how filmmakers engage with these very same communities today. You see, independent filmmakers in the Himalayas, they can't exactly set up a typical Hollywood backlot with catered food and luxury trailers. To capture the authentic stories of this region, they literally have to immerse themselves entirely into the local way of life. The whole country of Nepal serves as this living, breathing set, but operating there requires an unbelievable level of community integration.
You really have to look at the contrast here. Responsible film production in this region operates almost exactly like community tourism. Think about traditional tourism. It's often highly transactional, right? You stay in a nice hotel, eat at a restaurant, and take some photos, and you leave. But when a production crew from Kathmandu travels to a remote village, there are no hotels, zero. They rely entirely on immersive homestays. They eat exactly what the locals eat, harvested straight from the fields. It requires this beautiful mutual reliance on local hospitality just for basic survival and sustenance.
Just think about the life cycle of one of these remote film shoots. It is a massive, multi-year commitment. A production company might spend 2 whole years just scouting locations and building trust with the village elders. Then they're living in homestays for months. And the locals aren't just hosts, they frequently become the actors, portraying stories they deeply relate to. If the crew wants meat for dinner, they'll buy a whole goat and share it with the entire village, turning a regular meal into a massive cultural celebration with dance and local alcohol. By the end of it, the crew transforms from total strangers into actual family.
And that brings us to Section 4, Preserving the Himalayan Spirit. So here's the ultimate payoff, the profound, lasting impact this modern storytelling has on these ancient communities. Because the collaboration definitely doesn't end when the cameras stop rolling. Take Dipendra Bhandari's highly successful documentary, Journey to Yarsa. After living with the locals who hunt the rare cordyceps fungus, he didn't just pack up and leave. He continuously connects local traders of medicinal herbs and mad honey with international buyers. The film's success even led to brand new trekking trails being established where travelers actually pay to walk alongside the Yarsa hunters. A huge chunk of that revenue goes directly back into the community's health and education. And on top of that, local youth who acted in these independent films are often so inspired they move to Kathmandu to study film themselves.
Honestly, what's absolutely incredible to me about this dynamic is how outside storytellers can actually help locals fall back in love with their own fading traditions. For example, during the filming of a movie called Talking to the Air in the Mustang region, the locals had largely abandoned their traditional horses. They were all just using motorbikes. Because of a shrinking population, they had even stopped celebrating Yartung, which is this ancient 3-day horse riding festival. But seeing their culture so beautifully captured on film sparked something inside them. They felt a renewed sense of pride, literally dusted off their saddles, and successfully revived the entire festival. They went right back to grooming their horses instead of just riding motorbikes.
Director Dipendra Bhandari actually hit the nail on the head with this quote. He says, "If the filmmaker is a responsible person, then what he can give to the community can be far greater than what he receives." Modern storytellers are honoring the legacy of the mountain people in incredibly practical, life-changing ways. They aren't exploiting the land. They are actively amplifying its voice. So going all the way from that tragic legend of the Kaafal Paako teaching the dangers of anger, right up to the triumphant revival of the Yarthung Horse Festival through modern cinema, the Himalayas prove that stories absolutely have the power to shape reality. So I want to leave you with this thought to ponder. The next time you visit a new place, do you just consume the culture, or do you actively help keep its spirit alive? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep asking the big questions.